Should President Uhuru Kenyatta declare total lockdown, or should we just continue with the current curfew? That's the question which most Kenyans are currently asking. Because we all know that President Uhuru Kenyatta addressed the nation last week. But before that address, Kenyans had high expectations and were demanding for complete lockdown. But the president, in his own wisdom, decided to declare a curfew instead of a lockdown. There's a huge difference between a curfew and a lockdown. A curfew simply means a regulation requiring people to remain indoors during specific hours. For example, when Uhuru Kenyatta declared that curfew, Kenyans were required to remain indoors between 7 p.m. and 5 a.m. in the morning. A complete lockdown would have meant no movement. As a matter of fact, even food was going to be provided to people. No movement. If you are in your house, you are in your house. But the curfew we are at today means today I can do whatever I want during the course of the day. Then from 5 a.m., then I make sure I'm in the house by 7 p.m. So the president, in his own wisdom, realized that Kenyans were not really ready for the lockdown, which was the best option in my view by that time. But I've observed certain things these past few days and what's happening in other countries. In Uganda, Museveni just declared total lockdown. And in his address yesterday to the people of Uganda, he gave the reason that if he had allowed people, if he had announced that he was going to declare lockdown, many people would have used that opportunity to travel to their villages. He also explained clearly, which made sense, that the Ugandans, just like Kenyans, refused to heed to the advice. Like initially, he stopped public transport, but people were still allowed to use private vehicles. But most people turned their private vehicles into public vehicles. Generally, that's the problem with most Africans. South Africa already declared total lockdown. I think they're now on the third day. And I think even Rwanda also declared total lockdown. So from all those observations, I can say that Kenya might also go for a lockdown. And I want to advise Kenyans, because I want to demonstrate something here. I want to advise Kenyans that we must obey authorities. They are best suited in this moment of crisis. Now, I want us to look at two letters which were circulated yesterday. And that's why I'm suspecting that we could be having a crisis. We could be having a complete lockdown. Let me read for you those two letters. Let me just start with the first one. In the first letter, which, by the way, the Ministry of Interior later clarified was fake. But that letter was circulated after all. And I want to just assume it's fake. Let's take the position that the letter is fake. But let me just go through the letter very briefly. The letter is from the office of the president. It's addressed to all regional commissioners. And it's about national emergency response. This letter is dated 30th. And it's saying the National Development Implementation and Communications Cabinet Committee, in its meeting on 24th March 2020, directed the State's Department of Devolution to develop plans for food distribution for a possible 21-day lockdown. The State Department of Devolution plans to undertake supply of food rations to various sub-counties based on number of persons affected. Now, this letter is fake. Granted. But this letter, in my view, might also not be fake. Someone might have leaked this letter. And in my view, the leakages could have been because of two possible reasons. Number one, this letter might have been confidential the way it is. Then it was handed over, the communications channel, to someone to hand over to a regional commissioner. Then it landed in the hands of a wrong person. So this guy just took a photo using the phone. This is what's happening here. Then, because of the sensitivity of this, he raised an alarm. And the government might not want Kenyans to be alarmed at this particular moment. So that's a possibility. The second theory could be that this letter is actually fake. But there's a way the intelligence system also works in a country. They wanted to gauge the preparedness or how Kenyans were going to react to the news of a possible lockdown. So it was circulated. Then, within a short time, that letter, I found it, I don't know where. Then they clarified that it was fake. But already, they had gotten whatever they wanted. If they wanted to gauge the reaction of Kenyans, they've already gotten the reaction of Kenyans. So are we ready for a lockdown, or are we not ready for a lockdown? If you ask me, the curfew was the best option for the country. And the president, I think, made the best decisions. But in this country, we have a citizen who don't listen. Even the Bible commands you to obey authorities. And I keep on advising people, when it's politics, then we play politics. When it's these other small matters, we can play about with them and the rest with BBI, the rest. But when it comes to a crisis like the one we are facing today, then we must listen to the authorities. The authorities are telling us one simple thing, that we must keep social distancing, 1 meter. And they are also telling us that we must also wash our hands every time. And they are implementing this. The authorities are the people who understand. They have, for example, the President of the Republic of Kenya has intelligence. He knows what I don't know, what you don't know, what even some ministers don't know. So when the head of state, in his capacity as the commander-in-chief, takes his time to go and address the nation on a crisis like the one we are facing now, and tells the nation that we must keep social distancing, our vehicles must carry people, but within these kind of restrictions, then you still go ahead and defy. Who are you? What are you trying to tell Kenyans? What are you trying to tell Kenyans? Remember, when a curfew is declared, the way it was declared, I saw Kenyans still trying to debate amongst themselves whether to obey or not. The President of the Republic of Kenya is the commander-in-chief. So the police implementing it there, the army guy, in an ordinary circumstance, Kenya has only had two curfews. The one declared by Moi in 1982 during the coup, and this one. And in a deal situation, the people who are supposed to implement the curfew, are the army. But in this case, you are given the police to implement it, but still, Kenyans are still arguing. The president is the commander-in-chief. Now, I'm saying that so that as a nation, we must start differentiating important matters and jokes. Now, back to why I think the country is preparing for a possible lockdown. Let me read for you another letter, which was also circulated yesterday. This letter is from the spokesperson office, State House, Nairobi. It's about emergency response fund. It's saying, to foster our national response to the pandemic, His Excellency the President has directed the National Treasury to set up the emergency response funds. And this letter goes on, and it has appointed several people here. Chairperson will be Jane W. Karuki. Then there is members Michael Joseph, James Mwangi, Dr. James Mwangi, Dr. Neranda Raval, Dr. Mr. Joshua Oigara, Jeremy Awori, Washira Waruru, Mohamed Hassi, Phyllis Wakiaga, Kennedy W. Kihara. So by the mere fact, and let me end it, His Excellency the President has further designated Dr. Fred Matiang'i and Wycliffe Oparanya as the joint representative of the government of Kenya. So Matiang'i will represent the national government. Oparanya will represent, in my view, the county government. So it's a serious matter. And I'm still seeing certain Kenyans taking it as a joke. The government of Kenya calls upon all Kenyans, corporate entities, both domestic and national and multinationals, as well as our international development partners, to support national initiative. By doing so, Kenya will be better able to successfully contain the spread. That's why I keep on saying we must support the government. I'm not saying that the government is planning total lockdown. If it were me making that choice, I would have locked down this country for 40 days. Kenyans would now be serving, how many days now? Around 9 days. We'll be remaining with 5 days. But again, there's a challenge with Kenya. There are basic things. There are Kenyans who depend on labors. They have to go to industrial area, do those casual jobs, then get their pay. Then they can come and fend for their families. There are also majority of Kenyans who are making noise, but they're just seated somewhere, just storing because there are no jobs opportunities. So there's a challenge. But the government of Kenya, in my view, I think should borrow what other nations are also doing. They can make available food to people. What's hard for the government, for example, to try this weekly? We know most Kenyans live on less than 200 bob a day. Why can't they just map the households and every single week send them even 2,000 or even 3,000? It's a small amount of money. There are people who have money who will not need that, but majority of Kenyans will need that. There are people who have never seen 2,000 weekly for a long time. So the government can try that. That will only be 3 weeks. So every week just send 2,000 to each household. Every 2 weeks, every 1 week, 2,000. Every 1 week, 2,000. Then lock the country. Those who feel the money is small can add to their money, because there are people who will not need that. In fact, they can even donate to their neighbors. The government can use the military to facilitate distribution of foods during this time, so that Kenyans don't have any excuse. So that when we say it's a lockdown, you stay in your house unless it's an emergency. And if it's well coordinated, then we are going to deal with this situation. Without that, we are not going to deal with this situation at all. At all. I've been following these updates very keenly by the government. And Mutahi Kagwe was very clear yesterday that the curfew is going to continue. And I watched, because one of the questions Kenyans have been asking was why 7 to 5? And the Director of Medical Services, Dr. Amoth, explained this in a very simple way, which made sense to me. That Kenyans are social people. They like social gathering. Kenyans like sharing beer, drinking. So once they leave job, then always they'll go and gather over a cup of coffee, a cup of beer, a cup of coffee, a cup of porridge. Those who love their bottles would sit there, have their bottles. Those who are free can always have their nyama chomas. And that's dangerous for the country. And because I think the government has actually used the data, and just like I said, they have more intelligence than us. So probably they've used the data and arrived at that particular conclusion. Remember, if you wake up very early in the morning at 5, the next thing you do, if you're working, you go to industrial area, or if you don't, unaenda pale kwa beach, ama unaenda pale sokoni Kibuye, unaleta vitu zako. During that time, by midday, you are still moving up and down. So by the time you settle, curfew kicks in. Then you go to the house. So normally by the time People normally settle so that they can go, they relax their mind. Then now we have curfew. So we reduce the risk. I want to tell Kenyans that we can only defeat this if we are serious. But if we are not serious, there's nothing. We can only defeat it by supporting the government. Let us support the government. If they declare curfew, let's support it. If they declare total lockdown, let's support it. I don't know what you think, but I think the government has plans of declaring total lockdown. Whether you are ready or not is something I don't want to know. It's up to you. I don't know what you think, but from me, that's my take. And if you're bumping on this video for the first time, I want you to take a second or two and hit the subscribe button so that next time you produce a video like this, you get notified. And to the subscribers, I want to continue. Thank you guys for your continued support. Thank you, and please, may you have a good day.